Today's guest is Joe Rinderknecht, co-founder of Cowboy Capital and Upgrade Partners Capital. Joe has scaled a ranch upbringing in rural Idaho to owning and operating more than 600 multifamily units across the Midwest and Texas. He's known for his contrarian focus on sub 100 unit value add deals, his hand-on approach within a 4-hour drive radius, and for managing over $100 million through his fund of funds. Beyond real estate, he's founded Tiny's Tribe, a nonprofit supporting families after life-changing accidents. Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Leo. Excited to be here and have some fun with this.
I will say you were the first guest to wear a cowboy hat onto our podcast, so I love it.
Good. It's always got to be the first, right?
Definitely. So how did you go about from the beautiful ranches of Idaho to something like crunching numbers in commercial real estate?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, in a snapshot, you know, for those who can see, right, I got the cowboy hat on. My last name means keeper of the herd, right? We've been ranchers essentially since the beginning of time. The story within that is my family's been very traditional, right? Like my grandpa's still a rancher, my uncles, some of my cousins are still ranchers. And I am the oldest grandson, like the oldest nephew. I'm the oldest of all my siblings. And there's been a couple things that have happened in my life where I realized I needed to break out of the status quo and break some of these traditional limitations, you know? Because growing up, and I see it in my cousins too, like we all want to be ranchers. I mean, that's what we've grown up to think we need to be doing, right? And there was one thing that there was a good old boy who said once, because like I'm named after my grandpa and my great grandpa, right? And so this good old boy who knows my great grandpa was like, "Oh man, you have Joe's name. You have some really big shoes to fill." And in one hand, I was like really proud of that. But on the other hand, I'm like, I want to create my own legacy, like I'm grateful for the traditional mindset of and the things that I've learned from working on the ranch. I'm like, I want to create my own legacy for my family. Like I said, I've had a couple life-changing incidents that really helped me, take a sharp turn. I just, at the end of the day, I wanted more for myself and for my family. I didn't want to just be stuck, doing labor jobs and running the ranch and just trying to make ends meet. And, I really just decided to stop caring what other people thought about me and what other people's opinions were of what I should do. And just decided to go all in on myself and my dreams, come hell or high water or whatever risks there may be. I just decided to go for it.
I love
So
it. And from what I hear, the farming community is very, very tight knit, right? There's a lot of the pressures to sort of continue the family farm and be in the family business, right? So it must have been extra
sure.
hard for you.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely true. Very, very generational. Yeah. Like, so my grandpa's ranch is in northern Utah, and our great grandpa 5 generations ago settled in northern Utah, 5 generations ago, and the ranch had been in the family. And so now my grandpa sold some of his and bought his own ranch. And yeah, there was a lot of pressure to not kind of continue that legacy. But I would say, I think my dad, I never thought I would actually say this, but I kind of thank my dad for helping me kind of get out of it a little bit, because so my dad is also my grandpa's oldest son. And so like he was the one kind of the birthright child, right, who was supposed to get it. And, he went to college for business ag, but then he started getting a lot of, interest in, cabinetry and construction. So he started doing a lot of that. And then, like when you're trying to do business with family, like sometimes things can get awkward and not work. And so my dad just decided to kind of become the black sheep of the family, left Utah, moved to Idaho. I'm probably a mile and a half away from where I was born. Right, and I'm moved back after 12 years of being gone. But, I thank him because he was kind of the first step out of kind of the generational mindset and getting into construction, which led to me doing a lot of construction work, which really has helped me like with, renovations and apartment complexes and whatnot, so there's a lot of things that had to happen, to kind of get us to where we're at right now. And to um, the one thing that I will say with the whole like ranching and whatnot, like I still love that lifestyle. It's taught me who I am. So like people when I go to real estate events, so they say, "Are you all hat, no cattle?" And I say, "You know what? Right now I am all hat, no cattle, but I can still rope and ride with the best of them." And I plan on, in the very short term in the future, like, buying, a couple 100 acres and starting, my own ranch. I live on an acre and, we have a little homestead, if you will. And, I like that lifestyle to be able to teach my kids how to work hard, and all the values that I now, implement in my business. So kind of got away from it initially, but we're going to come back to it with a whole different mindset than just, you know, you just have to work and
Mm,
grind sun up to sundown on the ranch, to make ends meet. And we're going to come at it from a completely different approach with my kids and teach them how to work hard, but also that there's more to life than the ranch and only
mm.
talking about the ranch. But yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
really long answer to your question.
No, no. I mean, that was fascinating because, like, I mean, look, I think a lot of us we tend to overlook that we really stand on the shoulders of our ancestors, of the people that come before us. I think a lot of people like they just don't even think about it. That the whole like concept of legacy and stuff, right? It's the fact that one generation after the other, we sort of contribute to society, to our family, and stuff like that. We want them to be better, and sort of like your father, sort of taking that initial leap of courage and just saying like, "Hey, look, I might want to do something different. Like the world is quite big. There's more out there to be explored, and for you to take it one step further and sort of carry on that torch, right?"
Yep. Yep. Yeah, which has been really cool for me to watch that with him, because now, because when I was going into college, my dad actually, it was around 08, 09. I graduated high school in 09. My parents were like really pushing me hard to go be an X-ray tech because it's a safe, secure job, and they had just gotten burned, in the
Mm,
'09 crisis, and I really didn't understand that being a senior in high school. I had girls and sports and everything else but the crash on my mind. And
mm-hmm.
you know when I started getting into business and entrepreneurship and real estate, he told me so many times, like, don't do that. It's risky. It's risky. And what's cool now is like he and I almost bought an 80 unit, just up the road from where I live. And so now that I've spent the last decade doing this business, he's like, hey, I'm gonna take a leap of faith in Joe and take the risk with him to do some real estate and help him get him and my mom set up because they have no retirement. My dad still works two jobs at 59 and my mom still works a full-time job. And now I get the pleasure of being able to help my parents get themselves set up so they can enjoy the next 30, 40 years of their life.
That's amazing. So how has your view on risk changed just throughout your life?
Yeah. I think I used to be afraid of risk. And I think, some of that definitely comes generationally, being afraid of risk and only going after like what you can kind of see and like really calculate. I mean, ranching is still extremely risky. Like, I don't know if you understand, like most people
No.
understand that, but like if you have a really bad winter and you lose a third of your calves, like ranchers get paid two, maybe three times a year. When they sell their calves in the fall, if they sell like their crops to other ranchers or if they sell bulls, right? So like you're dealing with a living breathing animal that can get sick, can get diseases, can get shot, can any number of things, an act of God could wipe out your entire herd, right? So it's like it's still pretty risky, right? At least with
Yeah.
real estate, you're collateralized, and I mean, I guess they'll have insurance too to kind of help with that. But I mean, it's still generally risky. I mean, you do whatever you can to, hedge the downside. But, going back to the conversation I remember having with my dad of him saying, "Hey," like, I remember I was sitting in the basement of my duplex that I bought in 2016, and I had just renovated one of the units. We were house hacking this duplex, living in the basement, renting up the upstairs. We live for free, right? And I had just got a HELOC on the property, right, for 50 grand. And he's like, "Oh, it's really bad to over leverage yourself. It's really risky. If values go down, you could burn yourself." And I'm just like, "Dad, like, I understand that could be a risk, but let me ask you something." I said, I'll call him John. You know John, right? And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "We've been friends with him since we moved to Idaho in 2000." And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I actually used to work for him doing construction. He's a general contractor." I'm like, "John has taken a ton of risk with real estate, with his construction company, right?" And my dad's like, "Yeah." And he said he got burned like really bad in '08, '09. He's lost a ton of money because of, this other person or this other job. I'm like, "Okay, I'm glad you said that. Where is John at right now?" He's living in a 7,000 square foot house, lives on 10 acres with a huge barn, buys the nicest rodeo horses. Like, what does that tell you? Right? Like, yeah, cool. He got burned and he lost a ton of money, but it's what you do with that down, that the time when you're getting knocked in the teeth, that really tells you like where you go from there. So like that was like it's crazy because it's like you kind of jump back to that period of time in history when it kind of clicked for him. It's like, yeah, sure, it could be risky, but like look at the upside, right? Like John is still he's wealthy, considerably for himself. He's wealthy. You didn't take as much risks. Like you're still doing really well, but like you can't say that him taking these risks hurt him because like look at how much he's bounced back. And I think about it's like my wife, her parents were extremely risk adverse,
Mm,
extremely. So it took a long time to get her on the same page with risk. And she was always just like deathly afraid of bankruptcy. And
mm,
I'm like, "Babe," because like at first I didn't understand it, but then I started studying like Donald Trump and all these guys who've been bankrupt. How many times? Multiple. I'm like, bankruptcy shouldn't, be that scary because it's like you just bounce back more intelligently. You learn the lessons you need to learn. And so, yeah, to go back to your question, like, yes, I feel like there's still a level of risk I'm willing to go down, or I think I have a moderate level of risk. I'm not like doing the day trading stuff anymore because I caught a falling knife there and kind of got burned. But I think like money can be made, money can be lost. If you're just so hung up on holding it with a death grip, it won't flow in or out. It won't
yeah.
flow out nor back to you. So try to have more of an abundance mindset around risk. And it's like, hey, if I lose it, then I'll learn and I'll make it back.
Yeah. I think a lot of people where they sort of get stuck in this mindset is that they always think, what if things go wrong? But statistically, right, the possibility of something happening, let's say 40% chance of failure, 60% of success. But they think of like, okay, like what if it goes wrong? But then they forget there is the 60% of success that they're leaving out. And that's what keeps them there.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, when they fail, right? I think a lot of people, they're naturally afraid of failing because failing means that your reputation is gone. You're losing something financially. You're in a worse off position than you started. But I think you and I learned through our journey in entrepreneurship that entrepreneurship is about how many times you can get hit but still get back up, right? It's like the Rocky movie. It's just like
Yeah.
as long as you get back up and swing better, like you will win. You will win one day, and that's just how people compound over time. But I think people just they never take that first attempt at learning, right? That's like the fail acronym. So they just never do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that people need to be more willing to fail because the only way that you actually fail is if you do nothing about it and you decide to go into pity, poor me, pity party, and then you continue to tank, right? Like failure is an opportunity to learn and it's feedback, right? It gives you the opportunity to grow and to be bigger. And I think like right now, like in my business, like things are going really, really well, like better than they have, in the decade that I've been doing this. And I look back at like how many times I've got punched in the face, the last 10 years and like beat down and, you know, my marriage is in trouble and I'm living off of credit cards and yeah, I don't see my kids because I'm just trying to make ends meet. And it's just like, we got to remember, I think the biggest thing is like the overall vision, right? Is the vision of what you want to become, what you want to create is what gives you motivation when there is absolutely no motivation and your morale is, in the drain. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we all get knocked into different levels too, and to sort of have that faith, right? That you're able to make things better even when it's the darkest, right? It's the darkest before dawn, is what they say.
Hmm. That's right. Yep.
So what was it like for you to go through that? I mean, that's like it seems like super tough.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good at being a long-term visionary. And so it was easier to like go through the fire even when I wanted to quit so many times. Like I'll give a for instance, right? I mean, there's been so many stories of like worse than paycheck to paycheck that I could talk about. Right? The most recent one being we bought a deal in 21 and we it was a 24 plex built in 1951 that we turned into a 32 unit. It had the ability to gain more units within the current structure. That we bought in 21 and it was like what end of 21, 22 when interest rates went double triple, like so many things that that you would never expect to happen happened with COVID and interest rates. And so, the project we had budgeted 1.5 million for construction. We ended up putting in $3 million for construction. That's like 100,000 a unit almost, right? That's insane
Yeah.
cost per unit for renovation, small deal. And so if you can think about it, like for like 2 years, my partners and I showed up 3 to 5 days a week to go swing the hammer to just keep the deal alive, right? To get the units done, to get the certificate of occupancy, to get tenants, because we had to vacate buildings at a time to be able to update electrical and plumbing, right? And so for that 3 years, I didn't have any income coming in because I was so focused on making sure that I didn't lose my investors' capital. And I guess a long story short, like there were so many times I just wanted to like freaking fire sell the property, be done with it. And I really, the thing that I look back is just like, we could have done any number of those things, but I think it's like the long-term vision of what I wanted to create. And I'm trying to remember there's a phrase or a way that you say this, but if say you're going to go do something really, really stressful, like how do you feel 10 seconds after you accomplish that thing that you thought might be stressful? Like, what's that post feeling like, right? And so it's like, hey, I got to call an investor and tell him, hey, we're out of money. We have to do a capital call, and I need you to wire me 500 grand, or else the deal gets put into foreclosure next week, right? Like, that's a conversation we got to have. And you could imagine, like, I don't know if this guy's going to sue me for negligence. It's terrifying, right? Like my first big apartment deal, who knows what could happen?
Mhm.
But it was kind of that foresight of like, okay, what happens a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes after I have this call. And it's like, okay, I feel grateful that I did it, that I was honest with, like, no matter what the result is. And so I think like having that foresight of like, okay, even if it's worst case scenario, like you can still try and find and pull the good for it and really step into like who you want to become. Because, if you can be honest and forthright and all that you do, then like doesn't matter if you're going to get hit by the IRS or the SEC. It's like if you can be honest in your dealings, then you can walk out of there with your head up. And sorry, that kind of took a curve that I didn't expect it
No.
to, but I think that's a way that you kind of go through adversity is, you have that faith and trust that you're going to come out of there, scathed, but better than
Yeah.
you are. And, be willing to go through that. So,
Yeah. I think that was wonderfully said, Joe, because I think what a lot of people they get wrong about entrepreneurship is that they think it's about making the right decisions. But in reality, it's the right execution. It's how you show up day in and day out for extended periods of time, right? I mean, Elon Musk says that like entrepreneurship is like chewing glass and staring into the abyss. It's just painful, and there's no end. Like, holy moly,
yeah,
and it just tests you. And
yeah,
so long as you're able to stomach it and keep going and doing the right thing, and just never losing that vision, you'll come out ahead,
yeah.
which is
You
what
know,
you did.
yeah. There's a couple analogies that I'll share that one of my mentors taught me as I was going through this. And he's like, think of all of the top, like some of your most favorite top performers in the country. You've got like Michael Jordan and you have Elon Musk, and you think of like their capacity for stress. Like their capacity for stress is so much greater than you and I's. Like they thrive on solving problems and being a solution finder and being resourceful, right? And he told me a story of like part of like the Mamba mentality with Kobe Bryant. He was always like, give me the ball, right? In any situation, give me the ball. And so like I'm grateful that he taught me that when he did, because then it really swapped the whole thinking from, well, why me? Why am I getting hit with this, to, give me the ball, I'll take it on, and we'll go up the court and get stuffed, or we'll hit a basket or 3 pointer, whatever it is. But like I love that mentality of give me the ball and I'll take it on. And I think that flows really well into the every challenge, every failure is helping you increase your capacity for stress and being able to be and like you said, it's not making the right decision, it's taking action, not knowing if it's the right action or not. It's just taking the action and figuring it out, because with action, you have movement, you have flow, for better or worse, right?
Yeah, I think this brings to mind what this guy's Jesse Itzler, serial entrepreneur, owner of the Atlanta Hawks or something. He was like, pressure is a privilege, and people don't recognize that. It's a privilege to be put in this position. I mean, look, Tom Brady, right? Like how he came back from that game with Atlanta, right? 28-3. He just stuck into it, and he kept on going. Um, yeah, I mean, having that vision and execution is definitely helpful.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to touch on something on the other side of it. Yes, I mean, execution is important, maintaining your focus, but how do you manage stress? How do you avoid burnout? Or like how do you manage your focus and energy in a way that you can keep going?
Yeah. A couple things. I really enjoy what I do, right? I think that's the biggest thing of it is like if you don't enjoy what you do, like deep down, then you're gonna be in a world of hurt, because like it's gonna be tough to get out of that ditch of despair or burnout, right? Is like you just show up to show up every day. Like that's no fun. So first off, I enjoy what I do. I love it. I like the details of asset management. I really enjoy asset management, which most people think is weird, right? It's a lot of day-to-day operations and numbers and details and yada yada yada. I love being able to create, like, if you take a deal that is like nobody else wants, it's a pile of crap. And, again, there's a visionary side of me. It's like I love being able to create it into something new that somebody will value at a much higher value than I did. And I think the other thing that really keeps me going is my family too. I've got 3 kids under the age of 8, and they help me gain perspective of why I do what I do, even in the tough times. Because, we're on this world, on this earth, God gave us the opportunity to be here, to be tested, and to learn and be like Him. And so it's like, how are you going to do that if not through, trial and tribulation and whatnot? And I want to be able for my kids to kind of see that and experience that so that when they get to my position and they have a family, it's like, hey, I watched my mom and dad go through that. And even though, yeah, my son who's 8 has seen some really tough patches, like be like, yeah, my mom and dad got through that. I can do it too. So yeah, there's still levels of burnout for sure, but I think you just got to rekindle the passion in what you do. Focus on the overarching why of why you're doing what you're doing. But I think the last thing that I'll add there is give yourself permission to go out and have some fun. Like, even if you're strapped for cash, like, what I like to do is just grab my fishing pole and go sit by the river. Even if I'm not catching a freaking thing, like, there's been times not even that long ago when a deal was going sideways that I was trying to buy, and I was just really ticked. And so, like, I just grabbed my fly pole and I sat by the river, acted like I was fishing, but really I was just sitting there thinking, pondering, and just the peacefulness of the river, um, really, really helped, you know. Or if you got to go get stuff out, I'll take a gun out and go shoot some stuff. So
Yeah.
there's a couple
Yeah.
strategies there.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it doesn't cost a lot of money too. It's great. It gets you out there, gets some fresh oxygen in you. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean for me, like I find that going for a walk will definitely always help me. Um, I live in New York, so it's not like I could do any of those things that you just mentioned.
I can go fishing at Central Park, can't you?
Exactly. But yeah, I think it is important to just figure out how you can have fun. I think a lot of like today, like people look at people having fun and enjoying themselves as weird. Like, why are you so happy, right? But I think for me, like I've always listened to myself and what makes me happy, and I realize it's not like a flashy watch or like a nice car or anything like that. Like I enjoy going for walks. Walks are free, or I enjoy buying a takeout that costs $10. That's nothing, right? So I think doing that is helpful. So I did want to touch on something. You mentioned you have kids. So like how I mean, the notion of entrepreneurship of like doing what you do, you're like working around the clock. So like how has like having kids sort of impacted your schedule, like how you prioritize things and your motivation overall?
Yeah. I there's kind of people believe in work-life balance, right? I hope I don't offend anybody here. This is my own opinion. I don't believe in work-life balance. I think it's a farce because at the end of the day, whether you choose to work or whether you choose to be with your kids, it's a choice that you make at the end of the day. And I think your decisions, there's, consequences and there's rewards or whatever you want to say it for everything that you decide. And so I with my kids, I try to be as involved as I can with them, like help coach wrestling or football or like be as involved with that stuff as I can. Because I believe thoroughly that if my why truly is my kids, and even though I should be working 16-hour days to finish a project, if I put time and energy into my kids, then I believe in like that energy of really going after what you want and focusing on what's most important to you. So even though, like, sure, maybe I think I need to be working 16-hour days, putting time and energy into my family and my kids may bring about more abundance. And, because there's always going to be things that need to be done, no matter what, right? We could work 24-hour days and probably still not catch up, for a couple months. So it's just making that choice to, be intentional and focused when you're working, and be intentional and focused on your kids when you're with them. If you can spend 20 minutes with them, great. If you can spend a couple hours with them, great. So I think it's a matter of choices we make on that work-life
Mm,
balance. And, you know, don't give yourself excuses like, oh, I don't have time to go do this with my kids, or I don't have time. Like, can't blame it on time, because that's all that we have, right? And we
mm,
don't we don't we don't have the next minute until, like, we're not guaranteed the next minute, of our lives, right? And so it's like your choice in what you do is I think is what I believe is, and sometimes we get it wrong, and you just got to do
yeah.
the best that you can is what I'll say to
Mm,
that.
mm. Very good. Very good. I like that. So switching into the company side. So how big is your team right now? Like where are you at in your business?
Yeah, so man, just like within our company, I've got my business partner Levi. We have a college intern and then a virtual assistant who does like admin type stuff. So like our direct team is just the four of us, but then, we have like third party people we work with, bookkeepers. My wife's actually a CPA, so I guess you could add her as part of the team because she does all of our books and whatnot. You know, yeah, we have a lot of people on our team if you wanna, like, really go detailed and intricate with it. We have property managers and contractors and, there's a lot
Yeah.
of moving pieces and people to make the whole business. So, like, before I thought, "Man, I've got a really small team," but then as I really dug into it, I'm like, "Holy crap, I have a huge team." And it's like everybody that is anywhere remotely connected with what we do, it's like they're banking on me to do my best. It's like we're both a part of Avester, right? If, you know, they make money from us for their services, right? So they're technically a part of the team, right? Because we get services from them and them us. And
Yeah. I think in real estate in particular, it's one of those places that it just there's so many players in the space and it's so well serviced that, a company could really be light in terms of like their headcount, like their team members and they just rely on a lot of vendors too.
yeah,
But obviously, like on the flip side, it's like every closing statement, I'm like, oh my god, there's so many line items. How much go to him, her, the other
oh,
thing.
yeah, you're speaking my language. Those freaking title settlement statements and sources and uses.
Yep,
It's not
yep,
fun reconciling.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But I think it's a good reminder though of how much impact that we have and like the machine that we're building. It's like you're coordinating like property managers, like vendors and stuff like that. It's still like it's like you're managing a team that's like not officially part of your team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you have like I don't know, like ways to manage the process as well? I know you mentioned you enjoy asset management and just I guess like bringing order to chaos, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's a really good question. That's an never ending journey. Like a few softwares that I really like to use, ClickUp is like Trello. Some people like Trello, Asana. Like I really like to use ClickUp as like a project management, and so that helps with like, yeah, project and task management, especially with our renovations. And I'm learning how to better like delegate tasks instead of trying to wear all of the hats. I don't know, something like my partner and I, like we've been used to wearing every single hat for the last decade so well that I think we're just really good at it. And like we've had like this last deal that we bought in Texas, they're like, I don't know how you guys can solve all these problems and manage every like intricate piece. And it's just like you do it long enough and you unfortunately can wear all the hats pretty well.
Yeah.
So we'll just say right now there's still a little more chaos than organization. But we are really working towards being more organized. I think the one thing that I do on a daily basis to bring some, how did you say it? Bring some what to the chaos? Bring some
Order to the
order
chaos.
to the chaos is each day, at the end of each day, I'll do like okay, what were my wins for the day? And then I'll state what are the top 3 things that I need to achieve tomorrow, and
Mm,
I do that the night before because sometimes there's just a million things that you got to do working in the business that you just like, hey, if you can, what are the top 3 things that will move the needle? And sometimes if you achieve one of these bigger items on that top 3, it will solve a bunch of the small ones underneath. So that's a small thing that I do is, figure out what are the top 3 things that I got to do. And what I'll do is I break it up, what are the top, I usually do like, what are my top 5 things I got to do, accomplish for the year, top 3 for the quarter, top 3 for the week, quarter, month, week, day. So you kind of backing into that year goal that you're trying to hit.
mm.
And that helps kind of bring more order and focus.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs they just wear every hat for the longest time, and then I think delegation that's a skill that needs to be learned over time. It's like how do you teach this person to do it right? So I mean I'm doing that myself too, just like hiring executive assistants, be like okay just shadow me like I don't know what to tell you to do just
Exactly.
figure something out. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple good books too. Been reading like Who Not How
Hmm.
and Dan Martell's
Yes.
Buy Back Your Time. We've been looking at EOS or the traction.
Mm,
It's so
yep.
crazy. I see so many like big operators who have
Yes.
implemented EOS. And so like even though we're kind of still a small shop, I'm like very interested in jumping into that at an early stage.
We're trying to do that too. It's tough. I mean, to get everyone on board to like create the systems and stuff, but yeah, absolutely. A lot of people use that. And like I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If these guys are doing it and they're successful, I'll
Yeah.
do it.
We've
Like,
already gone through that whole like steep learning curve, right? It's like,
mhm,
yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready and willing to pay to
yeah.
cut that learning curve down substantially.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, as entrepreneurs, like we think in terms of ROI. It's like, what's our return on investment on our time? Like, do I want to spend like 2 years kind of just like flubbing about, like not doing it right, or just, I don't know, pay someone a few bucks and like shorten it to 3 months? Like, great. Let's go make more money.
Yeah, yeah. The
So,
return on time is a calculation not many people think about.
hmm, for sure. And speaking of return on time too, I know just, for you doing a lot of the real estate stuff and, you sort of want to give something back, right? You want to return something to the community, like with your tiny tribe. I want to touch on that really quickly.
Yeah,
What's that about? And like, you know, how did you get that inspiration?
yeah. In a nutshell, so Tiny's tribe was kind of founded out of fire. We'll say the short of the long is, how I was kind of telling you, my parents wanted me to go to
Yeah.
school to be an X-ray tech. I went to school to start being an X-ray tech, and then in 2013, I was in a really bad car accident, and I lost my little brother and my grandma in that car accident. And I was in the ICU for 10 days. They didn't think I was going to make it. And I always kind of grew up as a kid that worried about what other people thought of me and cared a lot about what people wanted me to do. My little brother, he was 22 months younger than me. He was the rebel of the family, didn't give two flying craps what people thought about him. He went after what he wanted unapologetically, and doesn't matter what anybody's opinion was. He was going for it. And so when he passed away, when you come to, there's a very, very, distinct why in the road when you come to a life altering event like that. You either get pissed off, curse God that he just took away your best friend, and you go down a dark path, or you kind of take that path of enlightenment and you learn from it. And that's kind of the path I took my brother felt like, been given a second chance at life. And the attributes that my brother, Clancy was his name, his nickname was Tiny. So the nonprofit is named after him to go after life unapologetically. And, so Tiny's Tribe, Tiny was built, Clancy was his nickname, and then Tribe is kind of the community coming together, right? I would not be who I am or where I am today if it wouldn't have been for the community who came together and loved my family through that entire process, paid, hospital bills for my hospital bills, funeral costs, life for my grandma, and, probably lost sleep from the amount of people that came over just to make sure my family and I were okay. And so Tiny's Tribe, what we do is we find families in in our local communities that have been through some kind of tragic incident or accident that, where it resulted in death or severe injury of, a member of the family. And the way that we help them are usually in four ways, and kind of the necessities of life, right? One, we help them with capital or with money to pay for hospital bills, for funerals, for living expenses. We've helped people who, like the husband, the breadwinner, he passes away and they're like, what the heck do I do now? Right? The wife who hasn't worked in decade has to go back to work, right? So we try and help that burden a little bit. So money, and then like food. We have a lot of resources with ranchers, and so we've given half a cow away to families, and that could feed a family for a year, right? Third is shelter, like construction background. We've gone and renovated people's houses before, built wheelchair ramps. And the fourth thing, which I think is one of the most important aspects, is mindset. We want people to come back to reality, to come back to, like, after they get done grieving, not get done, but after they go through that grieving process. Sorry, that kind of sounded really bad.
Yeah,
But
I get it.
as they go through that grieving process, we want to give them the resources and the ability to have an optimistic outlook on life and move forward better than they were previously. Because I look back at who I was before that accident and who I was a month after that accident, and it's night and day difference, right? And it's because of the community, it's because of the love and the guidance that people gave me. And so that's how we like to help people. I haven't been able to do as much with the last couple of years as I would have liked, because I've been trying to keep my own head above water. But in 26, we're gonna do some events and start doing that more and helping more people. So I'm really excited about that.
I love it, and thank you for sharing that, Joe. So how can we help you? Like, who are like some people that you're trying to connect with,
Yeah. So for Tiny's Tribe, right? So
or just in general too?
yeah, I mean, I'll say some stuff like Tiny's Tribe. Like, we're always looking for service providers, like with those four things. Like, if we can find providers that can, like, make people's life easier, as easy as possible, while they go through that grieving process. In the past, we've worked with like food service companies or car detailing or home cleaning services, stuff like that. If you have some kind of service where you think like, hey, this could actually make a family's life, whether it's a kid or a parent that isn't injured or passed away, any food services. Or we've had, larger, like Sunpro is a like a lumber contractor out here in the West. Like, they donated wood to go toward, stuff like that, right? Donations, financial donations are always great. 100% of the proceeds go to the families. That's why I do real estate. I don't ever want to take a dime from money that we raise to go to families. So it goes all to them. So
I love it. I love it. I wish we had more time to chat about this. I mean, we're having such a good conversation.
it's going good.
But okay, so how can people get in touch with you? How can people connect with you?
Yeah. So you probably just hit me up on the socials, right? Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm active on both of those. You can email me, joe@cowboycapital.us. If you want to talk like Tiny's Tribe stuff, probably email me at just my personal, Joe Rinderknecht 91 at Gmail is my personal. Once we get the Tiny's Tribe stuff, we'll get our Tiniest Tribe email backup and going, but for now, I'll just use my personal one. So
I love it. And to those listening, I definitely recommend just reaching out and connecting to people. I think that's truly how we keep it going. If you learn something new from here, reach out to Joe, see how you can help him out and like make the dots connect.
yeah.
With that being said, Joe, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom.
Yeah, thank you, Leo. I really appreciate it. And yeah, if anybody wants to talk, if you're going through some crap, call me. That's
Sounds
that's how
great.
that's the other way that we all get through a lot of crap is you just got to have a brother to talk to and decompress and talk. I think that's last
Definitely.
thing that I'll say is like
Yeah.
I didn't do it all internally. I'm very much a external processor. So
Yeah.
email me and then we'll talk or something.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Joe.